Sarah Morrison had always remembered her childhood friend, Emily, with a strange mixture of fondness and unease. Emily had been the perfect companion during those lonely years after her family moved to the old Victorian house on Elm Street, but Emily was supposed to be imaginary. It was a Thursday evening when Sarah, now 35 and cleaning out her late mother's attic, found the shoebox. Inside were yellowed newspaper clippings her mother had saved, mostly about local events from the 1980s. Sarah's hands trembled as she unfolded one particular article dated October 15, 1983. Local girl still missing after 3 weeks, the headline read. Below it was a photograph that made Sarah's blood run cold. The smiling 8-year-old in the picture was Emily. Not someone who looked like Emily. It was Emily, exactly as Sarah remembered her, down to the small scar above her left eyebrow, and the way she tilted her head slightly when she smiled. Sarah sank onto the dusty attic floor, her mind reeling. She had been 6 years old when they moved to this house in 1987, 4 years after Emily Hartwell had vanished without a trace. The article described how Emily had disappeared while walking home from school, how search parties had combed the woods behind Elm Street, how her parents had pleaded for information. There had been no leads, no body, nothing, but Sarah remembered Emily perfectly. They had played together every day in the unused servants' quarters on the 3rd floor. Emily had shown her secret hiding spots in the walls, taught her games that no other children knew, whispered stories about the people who used to live in the house. Sarah's parents had indulged what they assumed was a typical imaginary friend phase, though they'd grown concerned when it continued past the age most children outgrew such things. The memories came flooding back with disturbing clarity. Emily never ate during their tea parties. Emily's clothes never changed, always that same blue dress with tiny flowers, the one she wore in the newspaper photo. Emily could never leave the house, always had excuses when Sarah wanted to play in the yard, and Emily was cold, so cold to the touch that Sarah had once asked her mother for extra blankets for her friend. Her mother had looked at her strangely then. "Sweetie, you know Emily isn't really there, right? She can't feel cold." But Sarah had felt that cold. She remembered it vividly, the icy touch of Emily's hand when they played pat-a-cake, the chill that seemed to emanate from her friend like winter fog. With shaking hands, Sarah pulled out her phone and searched for more information about Emily Hartwell. The internet revealed what the newspaper clippings in the box confirmed. Emily had lived 3 houses down on Elm Street. She had disappeared on September 23, 1983. She had never been found. Sarah drove to her childhood home that night. The current owners were away, according to the neighbor, but Sarah still had a key from when she'd checked on the place after her mother's death. The house stood dark against the evening sky, its Victorian turrets and gables creating sharp shadows in the moonlight. Inside, the familiar smell of old wood and forgotten memories enveloped her. Sarah climbed the narrow stairs to the third floor, her footsteps echoing in the empty house. The servants' quarters were just as she remembered, two small rooms with slanted ceilings and a narrow hallway between them. "Emily," she called out, feeling simultaneously foolish and terrified. Silence. Sarah moved to the wall where Emily had shown her a secret compartment, pressing the exact sequence of wooden panels. The small door swung open, revealing a space she hadn't thought about in decades. Inside, covered in dust and cobwebs, was a child's diary. Emily's diary. The entries were dated 1983, written in the careful cursive of an 8-year-old. Normal entries at first: complaints about homework, excitement about a school play, drawings of butterflies. Then, the final entry, dated September 23rd. "The man in the walls says I can stay forever now. He's been so lonely. I told him I have to go home, but he says this is my home. I don't like the way he smiles. His teeth are too sharp. I want my mommy." Sarah's hands shook as she turned the page. The writing changed, became something else, something that hurt to look at. Words that seemed to writhe on the page. "She plays with me now. The new girl. She sees me like the others couldn't. We have such fun together. She's warm, so warm. I remember being warm." The dates on these entries were from 1987 onward. During the years Sarah had lived here. During the years she'd played with her imaginary friend. A cold breath touched the back of Sarah's neck. "You came back." Sarah spun around. Emily stood in the doorway, exactly as she remembered her. 8 years old forever, wearing that blue dress with tiny flowers, head tilted in that familiar way. But her eyes were wrong. They held depths that no child's eyes should hold, darkness that spoke of years, decades, spent in spaces between walls, in corners where light couldn't reach. "I've been waiting," Emily said, stepping closer. The temperature in the room plummeted. "It's been so lonely since you left. The others who lived here, they couldn't see me. Not like you could." "You're dead," Sarah whispered. "Am I?" Emily's smile was sad and terrible. "I don't remember dying. I remember the man in the walls. And then I was just here. Always here. Waiting for someone to play with." "Emily, what happened to you? Where is your body?" The ghost child's face contorted with something like pain. "I don't know. I don't want to know. I just want to play. Like we used to." The walls seemed to pulse, as if breathing. Sarah heard something moving inside them, shuffling, scraping, like fingernails on wood. "He's still here too," Emily whispered. "The man in the walls. He keeps me here, keeps me like this. He's been waiting for you to come back. He says you're special, says you can see what others can't." The scraping in the walls grew louder. In the secret compartment, something moved in the shadows beyond where the diary had been. Something with too many teeth. "Run," Emily said suddenly, her young face urgent with fear. "Run now. Don't come back. Forget about me. Please." But as Sarah turned to flee, she felt those cold, small hands grab her wrist. Emily's face was pleading, desperate. But first, the ghost child whispered, "Help me, find me, let me rest. I'm so tired of playing his games." The thing in the walls laughed, a sound like breaking bones and chittering insects. The house itself seemed to twist, doorways stretching into impossible angles, shadows reaching with grasping fingers. Sarah ran. She burst from the house and didn't stop running until she reached her car. As she drove away, she glimpsed Emily in the third-floor window, waving goodbye, or perhaps beckoning her return. The next morning, Sarah began her search. Property records showed that the house on Elm Street had been built in 1894 by a man named Silas Crane, who had disappeared mysteriously in 1896. His body was never found. Over the decades, there had been other disappearances: a maid in 1923, a child in 1947, and Emily in 1983. Always children or young women, always vanishing without a trace. Sarah hired contractors to search the house. They found hidden passages throughout the walls, a network of narrow spaces barely wide enough for a person to squeeze through. In the basement, behind a false wall, they discovered something that made seasoned construction workers flee the house. Bones, dozens of them, different ages, different eras, arranged in careful patterns that hurt to look at, and among them, a small skeleton wearing the remnants of a blue dress with tiny flowers. The police came. The house was condemned. Emily Hartwell was finally laid to rest in the cemetery beside her parents, who had died still hoping their daughter would come home. But Sarah knew it wasn't over. That night, she dreamed of walls breathing, of shadows with sharp teeth, of cold hands reaching through the spaces between reality. She woke to find her bedroom temperature had dropped to near freezing. On her mirror, written in frost, were the words, "You let him out." The disappearances started again 3 weeks later. Not at the house on Elm Street that had been demolished, but in the neighborhood. Children began reporting an imaginary friend, a tall, thin man who lived in the walls and promised to play with them forever. A man with too many teeth and fingers like shadows. Sarah tried to warn people, but who would believe her? She watched the news reports with growing horror. She attended town meetings, pleaded with parents to listen to their children's stories about imaginary friends. She was dismissed as traumatized, unstable. But sometimes, late at night, Emily would visit her, not the trapped, desperate ghost she'd been, but something lighter, sadder. "I'm free now," Emily would whisper. "But he isn't. He never needed the house. He just needed people who could see him. People like us. How do I stop him? You can't. You can only see him. And once he knows you can see him," Emily's form would fade, but her final words always lingered. "He'll never stop playing with you." Sarah lives with that knowledge now. Every creak in the walls, every shadow that stretches a bit too long, every drop in temperature, she knows what it means. The man in the walls is still out there, finding new playmates, creating new ghost children, and Sarah, cursed with the ability to see what others cannot, can only watch and wait. Sometimes she wonders if Emily was the lucky one. At least her game had ended. Sarah's has just begun. In her apartment, the walls pulse with a rhythm like breathing. In the corners where shadows gather, she sometimes glimpses too many teeth arranged in what might be a smile. And sometimes, when the world is very quiet, she hears him whisper, "I see you, Sarah. I've always seen you. Shall we play?" She never answers. She's learned that some games have no winners, only players trapped forever in spaces between the walls, between the real and unreal, between the living and the dead. But she knows, with cold certainty, that one day she'll have to play. The man in the walls is patient. He has all the time in the world.